Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today's episode is going to be a look at a big old battery unit, 2,000 watts of power from a company named OUKITEL. So let's get right into this one. All right, so getting right into this portable power station from OUKITEL. We'll talk more about the specs in just a little bit, but I want to run through some of the features on the front. So up here we do have the power button. Down here we have some literature, 2,000 watt portable power station. We then have a little tiny flashlight here. So this is a 2-watt flashlight with a little button down here, and I like how this is over right next to the power, because typically when you reach for this, if your power goes out, if you know where the power button is, you'll then know where the light is, or if you could feel that little light, because it is kind of a definite easy feel. If you happen to come across that, you're going to know it's the light, and then the power button's right up top. For me, that's kind of a neat feature how they kept them close. Over here we have a number of different ports. So we have two PD 100 watt ports. Over here we have two quick charge 3.0 18 watts. So these are identical. And then these are also identical. These are 5 volt 2.4 amp USB plugs. Again, with a separate switch to turn that entire module on. And then over here is the 12 volt section. So we have something a little interesting going on with this, and I'll explain this later on. But right now we have a 12 volt 10 amp cigarette lighter. And this just opens up with this little protective rubber flap. Over here we have the exact same output, 12 volt 10 amp. However, this goes to an XT60 cable. So we'll talk more about that in a little bit. And then down here we have standard 12 volt 3 amps. I believe these are 5 or 6 millimeter plugs. These are very common. There are two of those with a separate switch to turn that entire module on or off. And then we have the LCD screen main readout. So if we press and hold the power button, this will boot up for us. Little audible beep there. The fan turns on for a brief second, and then we have all the information here available. So right now it is fully charged, 100%. We then have an input power and an output power, various pieces of information here to help you use the battery and to better use your products and devices that are plugged in. And we'll talk more about that a little further in the video. All right, so moving over to one side of the battery unit, we then have this little flap here. Let me open this up. So this is our pure sine wave AC dock. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pure sine AC outputs, and this runs from 100 to 120 volt, and of course it is AC 2000 watt output. We then have a separate switch up here to activate that entire bank with a nice little click door on there. Spin the battery around and you guys can have a look at the other side. This is basically the input side. So we do have a little breaker switch here. If you happen to overload the unit, that's your little reset. We then have two sources of input power here. We have 1100 watt supercharge, 100 to 100 volt AC, 50 to 60 hertz input. This cable is included with the battery. I'll show you that in a little bit. And then over here we have a different type of input. It is a 500 watt max input, 12 to 48 volt, 15 amps. So this is actually for your solar panels, and they're cleverly hidden behind this little doorway that it doesn't lock, but it does click in. So it would be nice to see these actually lock, because if you go and pick it up, these can break off. It's not going to damage the battery, but I just think if they snapped in there a little tighter, it'd be a little bit better of a fit, but it does the job, no doubt. Okay, I'm going to move the battery over towards this side and get it situated here. I have a few devices lined up here and some cables and all kinds of things so we can actually plug in and get an idea of how this interface works and just have a look at what the output levels are. Up top there is a little kind of a trap door here. So there are two nice metallic handles. In between there is a little door. Now I have a lot of these portable battery units. This is the only one that I have that actually has a place to store not only the charge cable that you need to charge the battery, but many other cables. So up top I did add a USB-C cable with USB input. I have a PD cable, so this is USB-C to USB-C. I then added a USB to USB micro. So that basically charges anything and everything on the market realistically. And then we do have the manual in here as well. But I thought that this was kind of an interesting thing. I really do enjoy having the charge cables in the battery unit. That way you don't have to remember a charge cable, because sometimes you can forget them. Other units on the market typically have wireless charging up here. So if you do have your cell phone, I don't know where mine is right now, but let's say you did have a cell phone, you could just drop it on there and it would wirelessly charge. Those are really slow charging. They usually only go at about 15 watts. It's best to just use a cable anyway. So cable storage in the battery unit, which is awesome. All right, so I found my cell phone and I've got a whole bunch of other devices up here ready to go on the charger. So I have a little projector, Bluetooth speaker. I have a very large Bluetooth speaker. I've got my cell phone. I have a AC powered fan back here. And basically I'm just gonna plug all of these in, turn on all the modules that we can get on, and start charging and have a look at this interface here to see what kind of information it will display. So here I've got a micro USB to regular USB. So let's go ahead and plug that in 5 volt 2.4 amp. We'll take this very large Bluetooth speaker, and I've got this hooked up to a PD cable. So we're going to plug this into the PD 100. And I have an AC fan. Let's get the cell phone plugged in first. So this is a USB-C to a regular USB. Let's go into one of these quick charge ports. That's a quick charge 18 watt. And then we'll go over to the pure sine wave on the other side. And we'll pop one of these plugs in here. So that's to the fan. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 devices plugged in right now. Nothing's turned on. So if I want to turn on this module of USBs, simply press. It comes on. It shows me that I've got USB on and PD on. And right now we are charging this. We are charging, and that is charging. Cell phone's charging. We are outputting right now. The battery's 100%. We are outputting 33 to 34 watts. It's gone down to 31 watts, 32. So it's going to kind of bounce between 30 and 32. And it's giving us an output estimated time of 42 hours charging these 3 devices only. So let's pop the inverter on. Simply by clicking that, that turns on the AC inverter. And I'm going to flick this fan on. I believe that's on low. No, that's on high. So that fan is on high right now. And we are now outputting 55 watts total with an estimated time of 19 hours. So that should give you guys a little bit of information there. Now if we turn this bank off, and now we're just running the AC, we're down to 24 watts. So this is a very low pull fan. This is 24 watts, estimated time of 30 hours. So hopefully that gives you guys a little bit of an idea of how this stuff works. And then a simple press to shut the inverter off. And now we're back in its floating state where it's not burning any power, which is pretty awesome. I'll show you guys this light here. So to turn on the light, we have to press and hold the button. We get a long audible beep letting you know that the button's pressed. It comes on, and if you press it again, it goes into an SOS mode. And then if you press it again, it just goes into a non-stop strobing for a beacon, and then a single press and the light goes off. The LCD screen can be dimmed, so if you do have it inside of a camper like I do today, and this light is very bright at nighttime, if you double tap the power, the LCD dims down to probably about 20 to 30% of its original brightness, and then just tap it again to bring it back up. So that's a neat little feature. All right, so bringing you guys in a little closer so you can actually see what I can see on the LCD. If I single press and turn on all of these USB and PD plugs, we then have some working calculations here going on. So you guys can see the output is on the bottom, and then over there we have the estimated hours. In the center is the percentage of the battery life left in the battery unit. All right, so I hope that little demonstration there helped you guys understand the battery unit and some of the features. I do have the current listing right now on the website pulled up at OUKITEL.com, and I'm just going to read off some of the specs that they have on their website because some of this is a little interesting. So the model number is the P2001 2000 watt hour battery unit, and there are some main features that they have here. It says 2000 watt hour huge capacity. This one's really interesting. 100% charge in 2 hours. So you can go from 0 to 100% in 2 hours using the household plug, of course. For the AC output, it is 2,000 watts with a surge of 4,000 watts. So if you're using anything that has a really high surge, like a heat gun or maybe a power tool that surges really high, it will handle a 4,000 watt surge. The batteries are lithium iron phosphate, which is kind of the leading standard right now in the market. It says there are 4 recharge methods. Now this is something interesting that I want to talk about because reading the manual, I can only find 3 methods, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. I'm just scrolling down here to see if there's anything interesting. So I've named off all of the wattages. There's an Anderson port. So on the in port, on the side for where the in goes, for your household, it's a plug, and the other one is an Anderson port is what they're calling it, and that is used for solar panels. So it's an Anderson port, maximum 500 watt input, and that basically says you can only have a maximum bank of solar of 500 watts. If you go above that, so if you have enough solar panels for 600 watts, it'll actually kick out the battery and it won't charge. So down here on their official specs, the size states that it is 394 millimeters by 279 millimeters by 330 millimeters. Now I apologize for that unit of measurement, but that is what is here. So you'll have to convert that on your own. The weight is 22 kilograms, so it's not a very lightweight unit, but it is a massive battery, so it is going to have some heft to it. The LED light is a 2-watt warm tone single lamp, which I've already covered. The operation temperature goes from 0 to 40 degrees Celsius, known as 32 to 104 Fahrenheit. The storage temperature goes from -10 to +40 Celsius, which is -4 to 104 Celsius or Fahrenheit. Sorry. The input supercharge. So this is pretty interesting. The input charge to get that charge within 2 hours to 100%, I believe it was. It is 1100 watts. AC 100 to 120 volt, 50 hertz at 10 amps. The solar charge maximum, which I just touched on, is 500 watts, 12 volt to 48 volt, 15 amps. The adapter charge is US version, 12 volt, 48 volt, 15 amp, maximum 500 watts. So a maximum 500 watt both for the solar and for the household plug. And for your car charger, which is the third method, is a 12 volt, 8 amp to 24 volt, 10 amp. The output we've already covered, and that is basically all the information that I find useful on the website. Now let's move over to the manual. Okay, so referring to the manual here with the recharge methods, there's a little bit of a discrepancy from the manual to the actual website. The website says that there are 4 methods of recharging this, and what that means is 4 methods to charge the battery. The manual only says there's 3. So recharge method 1 is by AC mains, so that is the cord plugged into your home outlet and then plugged into the side to charge it. The second method, number 2, is by solar panels, so that Anderson port that's on the side, you can plug in for solar panels. Flipping the page, we go right into option number 3, which is by car cigarette lighter, so the 12 volt cigarette lighter that you have in your cars, 12 volt from your car into an Anderson port. So everything on that side is all input. There are no 4 methods as stated on the website. So I don't know if that was a change in design or maybe there's a little bit of a discrepancy going on here. But as far as I can see, there are only 3 methods to recharge. And that is basically all the information that I can find that's useful. There is an icon light that will light up if the temperature is too hot or too cold, so that way you'll know if the battery is acting up, it won't charge or won't output. A little signal symbol will pop up there to let you know that it's a temperature fault. Other than that, I think that is pretty much it. So what do you guys think of the OUKITEL battery unit? 2000 watt, it's a big unit, it's a very smart unit with all the readouts here. It does have everything that you would really need to plug in and out. With that Anderson port on the outside, you can get adapters on Amazon to go from MC4 to X60 to Anderson to any kind of SAE cable, even that. So you really don't have to have just an Anderson port. You can use any other solar panel. You just have to switch back on your connectors to make it go to Anderson. So that's not really a big deal. They did not include that cable, unfortunately. The only cable that I got with mine was the actual household cable to plug it into your house and then into the unit. So you'd have to pick up additional cables for your unit if you plan on using different battery types and different solar panel types, trying to get that shut there. So what do you guys think about the OUKITEL? This is a new brand as far as I can tell. I received this probably about 3 weeks ago, and I have been dabbling with it a little bit. I have used it in the power outage in my home, and it ran my gigantic refrigerator in my house for a good 12 hours, and it only brought this down to 30%. So that's pretty respectful. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section. OUKITEL battery unit, is it good or is it bad? Let me know, and I'll be checking the comment section. And until next time, peace out, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.